There we go. We got Michael Irby. Sorry, I wasn't loud enough. JD Pardo. Come on in. Welcome, welcome. Thank you, guys. Let's give another big round of applause as they get their seats in.
Hey, guys.
Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you.
How y'all liking Washington?
Washington is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's beautiful, but just went straight to the hotel yesterday and then now here, so didn't get to see much.
You get a little scenery here, at least.
It's nice, though.
Scenery. I need to plan a golf trip out here, though. I hear there's amazing golf out here, and I'll bring JD out here and win a little money.
Fuck this guy. Fuck this guy.
Hey, one king.
I should sit over here.
Yeah, we need.
It's gonna get ugly,
you know.
Is this like the movie theater? Do we have to leave an empty seat between each guy?
Yeah. We gotta leave the.
We usually have a guard between us or something.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, guys. Thank you for the time. We really appreciate it. I'm
100%.
a big fan of the show, and I'm sure everybody here is too.
Oh, thank you.
I like to run the panels and let the audience ask the majority of the questions. I have a couple to get us started, but for everybody out there, when it comes time, if you have a question, please give us your name and your question loud and clear so that these guys can hear it, because we don't have a mic for you guys, I don't see one. But we want to get them as many questions to answer as possible. I'll kick it off with a question I like to ask, and that is every superhero character has an origin story. How they came to be into their superhero powers. What is your origin story for acting? Like, what got you into it? What got you hyped about acting, and how'd that start for you?
Oh, wow. Long story short, I as a boy, I just loved movies. I loved it, man, you know, and my dad was, you know, LAPD cop for 30 years and Marine for 30 years. And, and anyone here who served, you know, thank you for your service and your sacrifice. So anyway, I you know, my parents, they wanted me to be a doctor, and I was just going to school for that, and I had all these AP classes in high school, and I took a theater class just to kind of get my GPA up. And then it scared me more than anything. Like, school was easy. And being on stage and having those emotions, and man, it was like a high that I never experienced. And I just was like, you know what, this is just who I am. And I went after it. As soon as I graduated high school, I told my parents, peace, and I'm gonna go do it.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely. I was a soccer player my whole life, and I went to Europe right out of high school, and I started playing ball out there. I was out there for about 6 months and played in a bunch of soccer tournaments, amateur tournaments out there. And when I got back, a few buddies and I, we were living life to the fullest, and we got in a pretty nasty car accident, and I broke both of my knees, and I stopped playing for a second, and I got really depressed and dark, and I took an acting class just like as a form of therapy, just to kind of let some stuff kind of go through. And I did one scene, and the teacher says, Mike, like, I said, oh God, what? And because I was used to getting in trouble, you know, I don't know if you know that or not. And so yeah, I thought I was in trouble again, and he said, dude, you're an actor. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I wouldn't even know where to. He says, let me get you some information. And I moved to New York in 5 months. I quit my job, broke up with my girlfriend, and I don't know if it was in that order, but you know, I saved $500 and I went to New York with a backpack, and you know, big dreams, and here we are. Yeah.
I know we're here to talk Mayans, but I was doing a little research on you guys and looking at your history, and both you guys have been in the Fast and Furious movies.
I was in the good one.
Ouch, already fired.
Yeah, but I'm Dom's dad, so
Yeah, well,
I
all right, I'll let you have that. I'll let you have that.
Ben's dad, I'm John Cena's dad. I mean, I birthed beasts.
Yeah,
you know,
hey,
that's what I do.
okay.
Some good genes.
I like it.
Got some genes in me.
I like it. Yeah, no, being part of the Fast franchise was, I mean that's a big deal, you know. And during Fast 5 is when they kind of took the turn that, you know, they pivoted from like a car racing thing to like more like a heist, hijacking type of a storyline. And I was really proud to be a part of that. It is, if you ask Siri, Okay. What is considered to be the best
Stop.
Fast and the Furious?
Stop.
I swear
You were delusional.
Siri
You
will,
are really
Siri
delusional.
will answer you back. It is quite common to hear that Fast and the Furious 5 is considered to be the best one. So,
You know what? I'll say this.
just go talk to Siri. She knows everything.
If you ask Siri who the real Prez is,
She'll tell you she will tell you that there is only one king. There is only one king. That is what she will tell you.
Does anybody have any questions? We can go ahead and kick it off with you guys. I know some good ones out there. Oh, you asked a good one at Sons. Let's go.
I guess it's sort of the same sort of question, I guess. But one of my favorite actors is Edward James Olmos. Like, he's a legend, in my opinion. I just want to know if you guys have any great memories working with him in Mayans or anything like that, as far as career goes.
yeah, I obviously worked with him a lot, and you know, it just watching him do it with ease. You know, he just, I mean, he's a legend, like you said. So I just, every time I had with him, I just wanted to soak it up and just listen and watch, and plus at the same time, like I wanted to give it to him, you know, because I was like, he's a legend. I'm not gonna total respect, but I'm not gonna let this dude beat me on screen. Like, it ain't happening, you know. So I have to, and I felt like that was also being respectful too, was giving him my best. And so he's Pop, man. He always called me son, and I always call him Pop.
Yeah. I didn't share any screen time with Eddie because I feel like if I would have had to kill him because he gave me the fucking Reyes brothers, right? Like, I mean, these Reyes brothers. I mean, I'm so glad. If Bishop ever had to run over to Papa Reyes' house, I don't know if it would have ended well. But Eddie and I sat together close during the table reads, and I got to know him that way. But yeah, I never shared one line of dialogue with Eddie during the entire run. So everything we got to do off camera. But he's a stand-up dude, and can check one more box of legends that I've worked with, and it's from American Meat. Like, I'll go all the way back. He was who I was watching when I was young, and I identified like, oh, he kind of looks like me, and and then here we are, 30 years later, and you're sitting in the same room making a movie. It's awesome. Yeah.
Speaking of those icons and those influences, who else was a big influence for you when you started into acting?
Oh, I don't know if I was always very hesitant to put anyone above me, because then I thought it was a bit more unreachable. So I didn't really have a lot of people that I looked up to as far as acting, like outside of my parents and, the creator and stuff. It was all about that. I mean, I appreciated the Pacinos and the Keitels, and, I appreciated all those actors from like the 90s and stuff. And when they were really telling those kind of stories, like Reservoir Dogs is one of my most favorite films. And, there was a couple movies that were coming out at that time that I was just so jazzed with. And again, being new to acting and not always like growing up thinking I wanted to be an actor, I kind of took it all as like I was just kind of walking through the woods, and I figured it out.
You've cleared a path.
Yeah, I cleared a path.
Yeah. How about you, JD?
Oh man, I reach for the stars. I never went to an acting school, and I didn't have somebody that came out of Panorama City who became an actor. So, and I didn't have the money to go into those classes or anything like that, and no one was going to support me in doing it. So I figured, why not study the greats? And that's what I did. Brando and Dean and Clark Gable, and I would watch all these old movies, and then I would watch these new movies, and it was at a time where you could get like the supplemental DVD, right? And then like the director and the writer and the actors would talk about the process, and that's what I did. I just listened to them, and they became my teachers. So that's how I did it.
Good approach. All right, any other questions out there? I know we got some. Yes, ma'am.
When your characters on the show were at odds with each other, did you find that like on set you sort of stay with each other?
Yeah. I mean,
Fuck
all
this
that.
guy. Yeah,
I mean, JD always wanted to be my friend. He was
Get the
always
fuck
knocking
out
on
of
the
here! I want
door.
to be your friend. I
And
never
I was
cared
like,
about
bro,
being your
come
friend.
on, man, I'm working
That never
today,
happened.
dog.
What are you talking
I'm
about?
working today,
What are you
bro.
talking about?
You know, it's like these guys were
Look at
leaving
my
up.
face to say something like that.
You don't want that, dog. You
No,
don't want that, dog.
you know,
Nobody's
funny.
gonna yell cut today,
Funny
okay?
thing, like he's an animal, as you could tell, he's an animal, and that's just how we approached it. You know, it was all love, and at the same time, you know, we were just like the whole MC. We were just a bunch of wolves together, and it'd start off like this, and then someone would say something, and be like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And everyone just starts, you know,
Yeah.
you got to be separated. But that was like, especially during that time, because I mean, we're both actors and we both commit. And so, I mean, we had scenes where we had to really go at each other. That one where I was stomping that dude out, and then you were like,
Yeah, and the, I remember
and
that.
then we were just looking at each other and we're like, hey, let's go.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, cool. Like we'll have a drink afterward. All right, cool. Like action. And everyone's just like separated. Like we wanted to kill each other, but I love that. I feel like, you know, go out, like your character has a need. Your character wants something. His character wants something. We're both gonna go out there and give it and protect yourself. And we'll share a drink afterward.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
But there are some times that like you don't want to come out of the trailer because you kind of you want people to believe that it is going to be that dangerous. And during the start of season 3, I had asked that all the other Mayan clubs were separated from us in our little holding area because we were supposed to come back and basically throw it on the table and say this is the way it's going to be. And you know, at the end of the day, we're all actors, we're all chummy, we all know each other, we've been in the business for 20 years and whatnot. But I really made it a very concerted effort to make sure that all the other Mayans felt like they weren't part of the Mayans. And when we rolled
You
up,
did that?
I did that, bro. That's why we were all
I thought
sitting.
they just separated.
No,
I had no
man.
idea.
Again, I'm
This
the
guy.
president, okay? I'm the
No,
president.
yeah.
I keep trying to tell you this, man. Fine, you gotta think with this brain right here. So, yeah, and I really think when we rode up on that bridge, beginning of season 3, I believe it was like a turning moment for the show. And those other Mayans looked at us like we were just assholes. And I was like, you are right. You are right. We are not friends today. I don't want you to talk to me. I don't need to be like, hey, I love your show, man. Hey, man, you guys, I don't want to hear any of it. I just want to come out and hate you. And like, I do have to kind of hide from other people on those days that are going to be heavy emotional days because I'm really easygoing. Like I can forget that I got to come and murder you in like 2 hours, and like I don't want to hear about your kids. I don't want to hear about your life. I don't want to hear about anything. I just want to sit in my darkness and save it for action.
Yeah,
And that's,
yeah, same. It's like, it's strange because I know that, you know, sometimes you get people on the show, guest starring or whatever, and they love it, and they want to say, hey, and been watching you, and that's great. But it's like, if you're about to do a scene where you're just gonna let it out and just be in tears in front of 60 people, and you gotta keep that focus in your head, and it's like, yeah, you walk around with your chip on, with the chip on your shoulder. Or we're about to do a fight scene, and I'm like, we had this massive parking lot scene that we were just gonna get in this nasty brawl, and I was just walking around like I'm about to get in a fight. And I know we're dealing with stunt dudes, and I know how to handle myself, and the rule was, like, if you get clipped, keep going. Because, you know, it'll suck to do it again, and you're like,
a lot of moving
what the,
pieces
you know what I
in that
mean?
fight,
So
yeah.
just go. So yeah, you had to, and I tell people, I know that sounds intense, but you all watch shows and movies, and you know when it's not good. And the way it becomes good is if we believe it, because then you'll believe it. So it might sound a little crazy, but we got to do what we have to do to believe it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. A great question.
Got one right behind you.
And the questions about the show and other stuff that kind of did you guys read for any other roles before that initial meeting?
Yeah, so I read, I showed up to this sort of, it was called like a mix and match session where they write 5 characters that are dummy characters and dummy sides. So meaning they're not real characters on the show. And it's also to protect from anything leaking out on the internet or any of that kind of stuff. So it's a way of just getting people in a room, and then the casting director says, okay, you read this, who can read this character, and you raise your hand, and who can read this character, you raise your hand, they put you in a room and they do the scene. And so I read all 5 characters, and with Kurt Sutter there, and then that's when he just kind of stopped it, and he was just like, all right, like, what's your deal? What's your story? Who are you? And we talked, and we talked about the character, and he was just like, all right, why don't you read for Easy? And he's like, come back later this afternoon. And I was like, I can't, I just had my daughter. I'm gonna get home, I'm an hour and a half away, she's gonna be all over me. I can't memorize these 8 pages there and then have to drive back. So I was like, you just give it to me, I'll go in the parking lot, I'll memorize it, and then I'll come back. And he's like, let's do it. And that's how I got Easy.
And a great easy you made. I have to say that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hey, it doesn't happen often.
Thanks.
Take it in front of all.
No,
our
I'm gonna
friends
take
and
it. I'm
family
gonna
here.
take it.
I didn't like the way you said thanks though.
Yeah, but I don't like the way you said that.
Hey,
That's how it is every day. It's just a piece of set.
I only read for one character. I only read for Bishop. The show had already been shot, and the boys had shot the pilot, and they recasted a couple of the parts. And I had just finished a job, and my manager called me, and she says, there's a meeting, I can't tell you about it right now, but your name came up. And I said, all right, let me know. And I had gotten a couple jobs in between that, and then I got a call for the Mayans, and she said it was the Mayans. I said, is that the motorcycle, the Sons of Anarchy thing? And she said, yeah. I said, they shot that now? And she goes, they did, but they're recasting a couple parts. And I said, oh, I don't know, I'm getting old. I don't want to be like in the club. And she goes, they're looking at you for the president. And I was like, motherfucker, let's go.
You just had to throw that in there.
And I went in and I met Kurt, and I ended up meeting him 2 other times, and I wanted it, and it was.
Wait, when did you do the table read? Was that was still an audition?
The table read was still kind of an audition.
Your audition, you weren't.
These
you
guys
weren't under contract. By the way.
These guys.
So check this out. This dude comes in to do this table read. We're about to shoot the pilot again, right? New script. And we had all been around Kurt, and we knew the process. And, listen, what's on the page is very important.
It's precious.
You don't change it. So if it says, like, I can't do that, you better say, I can't do that. You can't be like,
I can't
fucking
do that.
or whatever. Like, you can't do that, right? We all knew this, all the guys. Irby comes in to do this table read.
Listen, I'm from the theater.
This guy. So we're all just kind of like eyeing him, like, who's this dude? And so we're about to do the table read, and no one talked to him. We were just like letting him be alone, and we're just like, oh, watch this. This is gonna be like, we just had a feeling. So we're doing this table read. Kurt's right here, all the producers, studio, and his character comes up, and he just starts riffing on it, right? And we're all just looking at each other like, oh my God. And then Kurt just stops, and he's like, excuse me, can you just read the words on the page, please?
Yeah.
We didn't tell him.
Yeah, like
it was
these,
such a messed
these
up thing to
freaking
do.
school kids over here. They couldn't tell their future president that this is the way that, how we played on the playground. And yeah, he called me out in front of 30 people. Can you just say what is on the page? And I looked at him, and I didn't want to fight there, but everything in my body was like, yeah, dude, yeah. And
It came out you looked over, you're like, yeah.
Yeah, and we did it, and that was 6 years ago. It worked out. Yeah, you live and you learn. Yeah, these guys, they didn't want the best for me.
I don't know. There's something funny about seeing somebody like that fall into space and then ha, come on up, dude, we love you.
Yeah,
okay.
No, it was good. It was good. Yeah, we ended up becoming a very tight family. A lot of kids were born on that show. I imagine all those boys will be at the funeral and the birthdays and all the good stuff. It was. Yeah, we're all. Well, do you know something I don't? Are we not going to bounce?
Dude, yeah, but we don't talk. We don't say hey, I'll see you at your funeral.
It's not a morbid thing. No, it's saying I'm gonna know you for the rest of my life.
Yeah, but you
dude.
could have said birthdays and celebrations. Instead, you just went funerals. You see,
I might not make your birthday, but my funeral's only gonna happen once, bro. You get a lot of birthdays, you know. You get one funeral,
I'll be like, hey, one king, bitch.
and I'll be like,
Back from the dead.
Bishop. Yeah.
By the way, how evil was that line that he gave me, the last scene? You know, I'm getting Caesared in my own clubhouse, and he just says something like, I read Shakespeare too.
No, the actual line was, "You ain't the only one read Shakespeare, motherfucker." That was the line.
That is a horrible
I don't
thing
know.
to
I
say.
can't forget that line. I mean, it was kind of nice. It was kind of nice.
Brutal. It was brutal.
Yeah, that was brutal. That day sucked.
sucked.
We all knew it was coming. Those days as actors, like as an athlete, you go into every single game and there's a chance that you can win. You know that. If you think that there's something opposite of that, I pretty much guarantee you're not going to win. So I walk into every single game thinking that there's a way that I can figure out how to win. Today we walked into that day, and the only thing we were going to do was lose every brother and every friend that I've had for the last 6 years. And that was one of the hardest things for me to have to go through, and it was a very long day. And as much as Sons was Shakespeare, we were a tragedy, because the fact that I was a little ticked off as an actor, and I guess as a human being, because I felt like we really just sucked all the life and the hope out of the room. And I didn't want to kill him, but I knew that that was what was on the page. And I knew that that was going to be a road that we were going to have to go down. And it wasn't fun. It was a long, hard, teary day, but like, we still golf and we live near each other. We're still friends. We can still hang out. But I don't need to relive that day again, because it was just, I got in the car and I just, poof, and it all just came out. And it's not fun. It's great, and I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. But as an actor, those aren't the fun days. The fun days are, riding on the bike, and the fun days are kicking in doors, and some of that kind of, the fights, and but no, when you really got to get in there and let somebody know that you hate them and that you've lost all love and joy in your life for them, and you're willing to stick a knife in their stomach, those are, your brain knows that it's fake, but your body does not. Your body's still releasing cortisol and endorphins, and it's all these like chemicals going through your body. You're all in fight or flight mode, and your body does not know that this is not a real emotion. This is not something that you have to protect yourself from. And when we get thrown in there like that, it was just heavy. It was really beautiful. Yeah.
Sounds intense.
Yeah, it was. It really was.
Yeah. So I didn't. What?
He made a face.
Were you like? I don't watch it. Yeah. This guy. When it came my way, when they were auditioning for it, I watched the pilot of Sons. And I was like, okay, so I understand the world. Those auditions happen really fast, so you don't really have to, and I hadn't watched it up to that point. I knew of it, and I had a lot of friends, but you gotta watch Sons, but I wasn't watching a lot at that time. And then once I booked the role, then I watched all of it, and then it's like, you're like, oh wow, yeah, it's legendary. It's a legendary show. Jax is legendary. And it was important for me to see that and feel that, because for the fan base, I didn't want to create a karaoke version of Jax, and I didn't want to create a karaoke version of Sons. Who wants to watch that? Because at the end of the day, then just watch Sons, right? So it really allowed me to say, like, okay, Charlie, who's fucking phenomenal, took it that way. I'm gonna make it psychological with prison, and really try to represent the people who have who've been to prison and who can't get out of it and who live in that. So it's like my trailer on the show became my cell. Like, Easy was always in a cell wherever he went. Even in his relationships, he was in a cell. So Yeah, that's my long answer to yeah. Those things. Don't you don't have to listen to this guy. He already made a face, whatever that face was.
No, I didn't watch the show. I'm unapologetic about that. But I've watched I watched, when I got the audition, I said, oh, okay, I should make myself familiar. So I watched the pilot, and I said, oh, okay, it's a biker show. And then I watched the very last episode. So I watched the very first episode and the very last episode. And I know a lot of stuff happened during that time, but
A lot of stuff. You had like half sack. You
from what I
had.
understand, it was an amazing show. I also did not want to, we just take different routes to get to the same spot. I didn't want to really even see Ron Perlman. I didn't want to color it. I didn't
That's
want
fair.
to.
That's fair.
I didn't even want to have it in my
Does
computer.
Ron know that? Does Ron
Sorry?
know that?
Does Ron know that? Listen, I told Ron he's great
yeah,
in
yeah.
Beauty and the Beast. And
This dude's a savage. He really is.
but yeah, I just didn't want to color anything, and I knew that we were taking a really hard departure from what that was. We were Latinos. It was a whole nother culture. The bike stuff, I can go on Discovery Channel and watch a bunch of stuff on A&E and watch a bunch of docs on the bike culture. I knew of Kurt. I read about Kurt. I jumped more into the creatives and I know we were doing a spin-off and everything, but like, I don't know, for me, I want to play my own game. I'm going to pave my own path, and I don't really need to know how you made your food. I'm going to make dinner tonight. And I don't really follow recipes. I just kind of go off the cuff. And that was kind of my deal with that. And Kurt responded, and he said, I think this little motherfucker's my guy. And, he learned how to ride a bike in a couple of days, and then we just, we went for it, man. And we made the Mayans. We made it what it is, yeah. That's all right.
I've never seen Sons of Mayans. I started watching Mayans under JD. He was on Revolution. And I was a huge Revolution fan.
Same.
So when you were on that, I started watching that. And then when we got off of Revolution, I was just curious, the gentleman that I get from, that played your father.
Giancarlo Esposito. Yeah.
His career was just like boom, exploding in front of yours. He's on Star Wars and
Yeah.
he has his own character. I was just curious, still keep in contact with him?
Oh, yeah.
Watch Paris?
I have not watched it, but he'll text me every now and then and be like, "Hey son, how you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm good, pop." Yeah. He's a beast. I learned a lot from that guy. That dude. Our first day, you see the wardrobe on set, and they're getting your outfits ready, and so my time is there, and they're working on what my character's gonna look like, and this dude walks. I just hear somebody just cussing me out. Like, hey, motherfucker, you mother, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, what? And I turn around, and it's Giancarlo Esposito. And he's like, yeah, boy. Yeah, son. What you gonna do, son? And I was just like, what is he doing? And I was like, oh, dude's method. So let's give it back to him. So, yeah, old man, what the fuck you gonna do? Da-da-da-da-da-da. We just got, and he's like, okay. And that was our relationship, I like Eddie Olmos, Giancarlo, like these are legends.
Yeah, man.
They're incredible, and you can only wish to, hope to work with them.
The Paris show is awesome.
I'll check it out.
G was the
you.
very first movie I ever worked on in New York, a film called Piñero, about the New Rican Poet Society back in the 90s. And G played a guy named Miguel Agarin, and we hung out down on the Lower East Side for like 34 days on like a $2 million budget. And that's where I know G, and I've known that guy too. And it's just, what, this business, it's very small once you get in. It's weird, like you end up working. It's odd because sometimes you don't work with anyone ever again, but you're in the business. You keep seeing each other. Hollywood is very small, but yeah, we've all worked together at one point. Yeah.
Giancarlo was out here last year on the stage, and he is a presence.
Oh yeah.
Like you can just feel it come off of him when he walks into the area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun, and it's very, very loud too.
Oh,
It's a loud
his
panel.
voice, he doesn't need a mic. His
Yeah.
voice
He did not.
is, but very theatrical. He was a lot of stage work, and you have to project to reach the people back there. right? And even on stage, it's so different because the camera gets tight, the camera is intimate, so less is more. But when you're on the stage, you have to be big, you know, so that people get your body language, they understand it, right? So he's big. He's a big dude.
Any other questions out there? How about second row here?
I was gonna ask, what's it like working with Danny Pino?
It's irritating because he's so good looking, he's so nice, he's a family man. He's perfect. He really is. I love that guy. It's great to work with him, and I worked with him before on The Burning Plane. And I remember the director when I was shooting that. The director came up to me and he was like, because I played the flashback side of it, and then Jennifer Lawrence plays Charlize Theron, the flashback of that. And the director comes up and he's like, "Hey, I found the older version of you." And I was like, "Oh, like, what is this gonna look like? Who's he gonna look? What is he gonna look like? Like, how does this director see me when I'm older, right?" And then he brought Danny Pino. I was like, "Oh, dude, like, if I can look like
You're
that,
like, I'm
when I
in,
get older,
I'm in,
like,
I'm in.
I won, you know." So he's a delicious human being. He's amazing. Yeah, I love that guy.
Interesting words. You know, Danny, he's really hard not to like. But Bishop and
You tried not to like him.
I tried, bro. I tried to get everybody on my side. What was his name in the show? Galindo, that's right. I'm trying to forget it all. I downloaded that. I took the chip out and left it on the side of the freeway. But no, Danny is really hard to hate, man. He is just such a charming fella, and like he is just one of those guys that has been in the business for a really long time, and just a bunch of pros. You know, when I found out that he was playing Galindo and we were going to have some beef, and you know, that storyline kind of fell apart a little bit, but like working with Danny is just a pleasure. He's a stand-up dude. Yeah. I think you had one?
So I watched Mayans all the way through, and I've seen your characters develop, and you guys have made some questionable decisions in the show. Is there any decision that you think your character made that didn't sit right with you as a character? Like, that you
None. You know, I get this a lot, you know, because it's like, I get the harshness of it, like when Easy kills Gabby, right? Like, that's a big one. People are like, how can you do that? She was the love of your life. And I'm like, no, she wasn't. Angel is the love of my life, you know? And that's true, because if you know Easy and you know Angel, it's that brotherly bond, right? And they always looked out for each other. And so Gabby in that moment is like, and people ask me like how I feel about that moment, and I'm like, you know, watch that scene again, because she's saying that Angel needs to go to prison for what he did. She has to call the cops. Easy knows that Angel can't survive prison mentally, right? I mean, it broke Easy. So he keeps telling her, don't do it. You can't do it. That's my brother. And she's like, no, he's got to pay. He's got to pay. He's got to pay. Well, Easy made a choice, and it was to protect his brother. Now, I get that everyone has a different opinion, but these are the things these are the conversations I have to have with myself to make it right and to make it believable for me, right? So,
Yeah.
is there anything else? Did you regret anything?
I don't not regret anything. I mean, I wish I would have smelled this guy sooner. You know what I mean? Because I really, you know, I had him, he was my prospect, and I really wanted to kind of bring this guy and, you know, into the valley with me, and then, you know, he kind of came at it.
Educate your ex-president.
Educate your ex-president, you know. I really wish that those words were on the page, that Bishop would have smelled them out a little sooner. My relationship with the women, you know, hurt people. I can't apologize for that, you know what I mean? Bishop was a beast of a man, and he hated himself, and he felt like he had lost everything, and he was willing to do anything to get it back. And if he couldn't have it, nobody could have it. So, you know, I'm okay with that, you know. Some people thought I complained a little too much, or I might have took it the wrong way, but if I'm going to fight, we're going to go to the end. I don't know another option. You know, that's what made me an athlete, and that's what made me, I believe, a solid actor, to be able to kind of go for it. And even though I know there's cameras and there's crafty and there's people watching and everything, but when we're going for it, we're going to go for it. And that's why I do this. Yeah, I apologize for nothing.
He made dudes cry. Like, I tell people, right, like, you know, sometimes you have that dude in your like group who's just so like witty and can like, they're just savages, and you know, people would go out. I'm like, don't go at Irby, don't do it. And then he just responds back, and you just see people shrink, like, oh God, like.
But it was all in love. It was all a character. I really had to, you know, that was like Bishop. Either you're gonna fear him or you're gonna respect him. And when some of the new prospects came in, like towards the last season, I wasn't real chummy with those dudes, right? Like they were new blood. And I treated them as such, and they might not be at my funeral, you know what I mean? But, you know, we were all there, we're actors, we're playing the game, but like I wasn't everybody's friend, and I didn't have to be everybody's friend. And that's what was so amazing about Bishop in his downward spiral, because in the beginning, like I had all these boys and we were all gonna go, and then when he started to kind of spiral out and wanted to be alone, we did that. Yeah, we did that. Sheesh.
Good question.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I remember when Kurt pulled us into a meeting and then told us about that last episode in season 1 and that it was happy. I thought that was so cool. It was just, you know, I've said this from the beginning. I wanted to honor sons with Mayans. It was never about, like, let's make Mayans better. I never thought in those terms. I was like, this is such a monster franchise. They have such incredible fans. And they're legends, man. 7 years in the making. And I really felt like they were passing the baton, and it was our job to move it forward. So I loved it. I loved when Sons showed up. You know, I was like a giddy, you know, fanboy, you know, part of it. And then I switched out, all right, I'm gonna kill you. You know, like, I love you, but I'm gonna kill you. Like, it's gonna be good. But no, it was always love, man. And I'm glad it was happy. DL is just, you know, he's a legend, right?
More questions? Way in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I thought would be cool? You know, my mind went to, and I get that it kind of, you know, maybe it didn't have to happen that way, but I understood it, right? Like right or wrong, Easy did some things that there's a price to pay, man, and you're gonna pay it, right? You live by the sword, you die by the sword. But I always thought it would be cool if at the end he saved the club and like a case was built against him and he had to go back to prison for life. And so now he's back to where he started, back in prison, but now he's the shot caller of the Mayans. Every decision comes through Easy, and we just get to live in that space, right?
It kind of works up to a point. I mean, I hear what
Can you
he's
imagine
saying.
that? It's like him, like Easy alone, like isolated in a cell, and then guard comes up and just says like, the Mayans want to make this move. And he's just like, yeah, they could do that. That would be like epic, right? That's my Mayans. I appreciate it, brother.
Everyone's got a different
Do you have a
ending.
different ending?
I wouldn't change what happened to JD. What I would change... I would change the DEA, you know, coming in and firing up the clubhouse. But no, man, there's so many different routes that you can take. You know, I mean, to go down that rabbit hole is endless. There's so many different ways that the show could have ended. The way that we did end, it was powerful and it was dynamic, and you know, it sucked for you guys and it sucked for us. You know, and that was I think that was the goal at the end of the day. You know, and we achieved that. And that's one of those things that you can't look back on or change. And I just. It ended the way it ended, and it was beautiful and dark. Yeah.
Back to the front row.
Yeah, so, you know, piggyback on a couple questions back, you know, when we were speaking with you at your booth, you were talking about how it was kind of hard for you to compartmentalize your you know, Bishop versus you know, and you had some issues with your wife and stuff like that. Like, do you guys ever have issues when you're playing a role, and sometimes you take that home with you, and how do you separate yourself from that?
Alcohol. Yeah, you know those
Kids,
are,
don't listen to them.
yeah.
Don't do
Listen,
that.
if
Don't
there's
do
any
that.
kids
It's very
out there,
bad.
this is
Very
Bishop
bad.
talking. This is Bishop talking. Yeah, no, man. You know, from where I lived and where we shot, I had a solid 45-minute ride home, and sometimes it took an hour because I would just kind of drive around the block a little bit because I didn't really want to go home. I was really hoping everybody was asleep because who I had to be today is somebody I don't want to be at home. Michael and Bishop were very different. There are bits of Bishop that are in me, and I like to keep those guys at bay because that guy's a dick, you know? I love him, but he's very dark and he lives alone. He's a lone wolf. But yeah, you know, this is an interesting career, and it's an interesting craft. And when you get something like this, specifically Mayans, living in this dark space, it is a little hard to separate. And when we put Bishop and the Mayans to bed, I didn't quite realize it, but 6 months down the road, I'm like, ooh, oh, okay, maybe now he's processing out because he stayed in there for a minute, and it's nice that he has kind of you know, made his way. But yeah, he lived here for a little bit. It was fun.
Yeah, man, it's you know, I know it sounds silly, but it just, you're playing mind games with yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, make yourself cry right now in front of people. It's not easy, you know, and your job is to tell a story. And that's what the audience wants from you. And, you know, there were times where, and I really have to be in that space, right? Because I didn't learn so much technique throughout my acting career. My learning lessons were like on the job. And so for me, I was just like, I have to believe it. And the only way I could believe it is to experience it, to become it. So yeah, it is a bit method, right? And to give you an example of what a week looks like, Monday you have like early call times and you wrap probably like around 6 or 7, something like that. As the week goes, the days go on throughout that week, the call times get later and later and later. And then they save the night shoots for like Thursday and Friday, right? And we call them Fraturdays because you go in at like 5 p.m. on a Friday and you come out at like 6:37 a.m. And that is, it's a sick, like, I get nauseous thinking about it because it's not right, you know, like you're throwing your whole schedule off in your brain, your rhythm. And so, you know, with my wife and kids, it was like my wife would do something with the kids so I could just sleep on Saturday, and then Sunday I have to prepare, right? But then sometimes, like, there's an important birthday party to go to, and I would have to go. And like on the show, Easy got serious, right? And I can't, like, I love smiling. I don't know why, I just can't stop smiling, right? But like, so I gotta not smile as Easy too much. So I really gotta be there. And then you just go home after a Fraturday and you're just sitting around, you're hearing everybody talk. It's like, and you're just quiet and you don't wanna talk to people. And it's hard because I know how that looks. Because people on the outside could be like, oh, what an asshole. Like, he's a jerk. Or what's his problem? Or, oh, he got wasted last night. Like, no. Like, you trick out your brain. And so it is tough. But you do things in the same way that you have to build yourself up to get into that emotion.
Yeah.
You have to build yourself to get out. Because I didn't like sitting in it, you know? So you listen to music. And plus, I also knew that I got a you know, my daughter and my son to go home to, and I didn't want them to see that. I didn't want them to experience. All they know is energy,
Yeah.
you know, and it could feed into them, and I didn't want that. So you got, like you said, you drive around sometimes, listen to music, try to get yourself out of it, watch a Disney movie. I don't know, just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we got stuff in the works, you know. Got a movie coming out in the fall called Osiris. It's a sci-fi action flick. Should be kind of cool. I just did some ADR for it the other day. It's all coming together really nice. But you know, right now it's just a lot of shaking and baking and trying to find the next right thing. And I'm being patient. You know, we've just been kind of busting balls here for the last 5 years, and then the strike kind of, put a little wrench in things. But like, I'm ready to get back out there, but I don't want to be impatient. I don't want to be too much in a hurry or take a money grab. I want to do something that I believe is a good coming off of, the Mayans and Barry and the career that we've got. And so, I'm just kind of checking it out right now. Yeah.
Yeah, right now so when I ended with Mayans, I actually made a deal with the studio. So they were like, produce your next show. So we're putting that together, and a lot of stuff is in the works. So you'll see it. Cool. We're gonna. Oh yeah, we did Roadhouse. That definitely did Roadhouse. That was a good one. Good old Dell. And yeah, so it'll be fun to see what comes up.
You skimmed right over Barry, Michael. What a
I
great
did.
role you had.
By the way, if you don't really, I feel like he's really underrated because when you watch, he was doing Barry and Mayans coming out at the same time. Very different characters. So go watch Barry and then watch Mayans, and that'll show you what this dude can do. What's that? Yeah. Oh, range, crazy range.
Yeah. No, Barry was, I had actually booked Barry right before the Mayans. And I just went in for a couple days. I didn't know they were looking for like a Bolivian Sammy Hagar, and I pulled some freaking accent right out of my bum, and Bill's laughing, and I wore like a fake afro. I got all dressed up for this audition. They're like, yeah, totally. And then after the first, I hadn't even seen the show yet, and my buddy says, dude, Barry's really good. I said, I'm gonna be in it. I said, I'm going to be in the last 2 episodes of season 1. And he's like, you're not watching it? And I'm like, no, I haven't seen it. And he's like, it's really good, bro. You got to check it out. So then during that time, I got Mayans, and we were able to establish a deal saying I can finish. I was on SEAL Team in Barry at that time. And so I was able to finish both of those shows thanks to FX, and they were really generous in letting me able to do that. And Barry just turned into this amazing, beautiful, and I think it was like the gods kind of, like, because if I would have just went down the Bishop rabbit hole for the last 5-6 years, like I'm pretty method in that respect. Like I think that was like a gift, letting me kind of balance that light and darkness. Because Cristobal was super nice. I mean, it was fantastic, and and he just loved everyone, and everything was going to be beautiful. And so yeah, those were some interesting days. There were 2 years where I was double dipping, and I was working on both shows at the same time. And that got a little schizophrenic, but at the end of the day, I just kind of pinched myself, and I was like, wow, I'm so blessed. It's so hard to get one show, and then to get 2 shows. And it was just, Barry was amazing, and to back it up with Mayans was just God. Yeah.
I think we have time for like one more question. Somebody have a great one? I'm going to go right over here.
Aside from your work on Mayans, do you have a favorite role that you've done?
Favorite role? Barry, obviously great. Those are just the last 2, but the unit was very special to me because the unit was during a time we were still in conflict. Me and the boys, we went to Iraq a couple times for some USO tours. I just met a gentleman here yesterday. He says, bro, I met you 17 years ago in Fallujah. And he showed me a picture where we were at Saddam's castle, and it's like, like as an actor, you really get to like kind of do things that everybody can't do, and like playing that also made me very proud because I was representing the military. Everybody I ever met from that community said, dude, you guys crushed it. And I always get this like weird little fuzzy feeling, because I know we were standing for something bigger than me. It's funny, it's weird, I don't know, but when people say, hey, I love you in Mayans, I'm always like, thank you. Like there's a small apology connected to it because I was such a bastard, and I'm not like Bishop was not a role model, you know what I'm saying? But when I hear people talk about the unit or SEAL team, it always brings a thing into me like, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Everybody's got a brother, cousin, uncle, aunt that's been in the military, and those were both very big jobs for me, and I'm very proud of those jobs. Yeah.
It's funny because whenever I'm asked that, I always say like my favorite role is the next one because it just allows me to just not stay in any of those things. But I'll tell you, on Revolution, when I booked that and I shot the pilot, Jon Favreau directed it. And I did a scene and he kept having me do it over and over and over again, and I wasn't quite understanding the note, and he just came out and he's just like, hey, you know, like, that's your camera and that's your camera, like, that's your camera, take ownership. I was like, oh, take ownership, like, what does that mean, you know? And so anyway, I did it, and like, finally, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take my time in this scene. I had no dialogue, but it was literally like me leading Tracy and the other girl across, and I was like, I'm gonna pretend like there's danger out there, so that'll make me like jump down and like rise up slowly, really scan it, but now using the cameras, right? So crossing the camera here, there, waiting a beat, and then saying like, okay, and then bringing the girls. And he was like, cut. He's like, everybody move on. JD, come with me to Video Village, where that's the tent where we have the monitors. And he says, play back every scene, play back every take. I want JD to watch it. And he sat me down and he was like, you're an honest actor. And it's good. And if I didn't think you were more, I would just say cut and move on. But you can do something in this business if you let me teach you. He's like, you want me to teach you? And I was like, yes. And he walked me through each take and why they were just good, but why it wasn't enough. And then he showed me that last take and he was like, you gotta study leading men, watch them, because they know how to find those moments to pull the audience into their thinking, right? He's like, and that's cinema. That's got such a spot in my heart because he took the time to teach me, and people don't, and it takes a village to raise this boy. So that was probably one of my favorite moments in life.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your time. Anything else you want to share or plug before we get out of here?
I just want to say to all of you, thank you so much. Thank you. Some people just don't understand. Like, if you don't watch, we don't have a job.
That's it.
You can have the best actor, the most popular actor in the world on a TV show, and if the views aren't there, the studio just cuts it. So I personally want to thank all of you for changing my life. It gave me a career, so thank you.
One big round of applause for our guys again right here. JD Pardo, Michael Irby.